The debates were some of the most lucid, penetrating speeches in our One Nation's history, done without a microphone, and shouted out to an enormous audience, but fed on free beer and peanuts. Have you ever been hit in your forehead during closing arguments with a peanut shell? Have you ever had your cell phone go off in the middle of a speech? So we tonight have better than beer and peanuts. First, we have a sellout. Yes, a sellout in this, our inaugural litigation section for And while the oratory won't presage a civil war, at least the evening will be remembered for what Mark Steinberg and the Beverly Hills Bar Association are best known for: great food. I'm Jonathan Stein. As dinner chair and chair of the litigation section, it's my honor to welcome you. This year, Beverly Hills Bar Association inaugurates two prestigious awards. These awards are important symbols of recognition given by the Beverly Hills Bar as part of its 80-year tradition of championing an independent judicial branch of government and the rule of law. The first will be an award for excellence in advocacy given to Roman Silverfield. Presenting the award will be Stuart Simke and California Associate Justice Victoria Cheney. And the second will be the award for judicial excellence given to retired Chief Justice Ronald M. George. Presenting the award will be Eric George and United States Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. We would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors who have helped make this inaugural litigation section dinner a success. Our dinner sponsor is the fine national firm of Robbins, Kaplan, Miller, and Cerisi. We thank them for their extraordinary generosity. It matches their extraordinary national reputation as top-tier business litigators. Our media sponsor is the Daily Journal. Perhaps you've seen a great new website that they have. Look for the congratulatory ad in the Momento Daily Journal that is available to you this evening. Our platinum sponsor is Mayor Hoffman McCann, Forensic Accountants, and sponsors the litigation section year-round. Their generosity and expertise reflect their commitment to this community of litigators. We thank our gold sponsors, the nationally prominent Girardi Keese Law Firm, Raines, Martin, Stein, and Richland, Southern California's go-to appellate law firm, and Tiffany & Company here in Beverly Hills. I hope you'll be able to see close up the beautiful artistry in the awards. And where would we be at Beverly Hills Bar without our bronze sponsors? Consistent friends of the bar and friends of this event, in alphabetical order. Bird, Morella, Boxer, Wolpert, Nessum, Drux, and Leisenberg, best known for white-collar defense and other sophisticated litigation matters. First Century Bank and its chairman, Alan Rothenberg, two names every Los Angeles law firm knows well. The national powerhouse, Gibson, Dunn, and Crutchfield. Mr. Jeff Kitchhaven, a well-known mediator and adjunct professor at Pepperdine Law School. Laffer and Gottlieb, fine forensic accountants. Manette, Phelps, and Phillips, well-known for litigation and political matters here and in Washington, D.C. Sussman Godfrey, nationally prominent business litigators. The Honorable Chuck Vogel and the Honorable Miriam Vogel, our thanks to you both. And we extend our thanks for additional seating for special guests to Girardi Keese and First Century Bank. Finally, we thank the firms of Green, Burlett, and Wheeler and K. Schroller for their participation and support. But it is to you, to each of you, whom I must thank for joining us tonight. For nearly 80 years, the Beverly Hills Bar has chosen well, and it is known best today by its friends and supporters. I think you add to tonight's luster with your presence, your enthusiasm and welcome, and your association with these fine men and women in our community. Now for our next speaker. Now, the Beverly Hills Bar Association has a very long leadership ladder, 5 years. And this year, Steve Rauscher is finally president. Steve is the partner of Rubin, Rauscher & Bloom in Westwood, known for complex civil litigation and sophisticated family law matters. Steve has brought his personally modest, informal, and comfortable leadership style to the bar, as well as his penchant for a detailed execution. Please join me in welcoming the president of the Beverly Hills Bar Association, Stephen Gross.
Thank you, and I want to begin by thanking Jonathan Stein, our chair of the litigation section, and of this dinner. Jonathan, without your creative spark, your energy, and your hard work, this night never would have happened. So thank you, Jonathan. We also have a number of dignitaries that I want to introduce, and I apologize if I miss anyone. We have with us here tonight Beverly Hills Mayor Jimmy Delshat. We have the United States Attorney for the Central District of California, Andre Barraud. Assemblyman Mike Hewer is here. Public Council President and CEO Hernan Vera is here. Judge John Siegel of the Los Angeles Superior Court West District is here with us tonight. And Jeff Johnson of the California Court of Appeal is here with us tonight as well. And Dean Bob Rasmussen of USC Law School. A couple of nights ago, we had the great privilege of participating with Justice Kennedy in the trial of Hamlet. Some of you may have seen the advertisements for it or read about it in today's paper. It was a lot of fun. It was a great success. The Beverly Hills Bar Association represented Hamlet, and we were very well represented by Blair Burke and Richard Hirsch, who I want to thank publicly. Was represented by Danette Myers and Nathan Hockman. We're very lucky to have Blair and Danette here with us tonight. Now, as president, I think it's appropriate for me to reflect for a few moments on the history of the Beverly Hills Bar Association, because that history has some bearing on our choices for the recipients of tonight's awards. The BHBA was founded in 1931 by people who were not welcome in the other bar associations of the time. While thankfully those days are past, the circumstances of our founding left an indelible stamp on this bar association. In part as a result of that history, the Beverly Hills Bar Association has always been in the forefront as an advocate for justice, access to the courts, and the rule of law. It has also taken a leadership role on civil rights issues. And we're very proud of the fact that the Beverly Hills Bar Association founded Public Counsel, which is now the nation's largest public interest law firm. With these values in mind, we could have hardly selected two more appropriate award recipients for this, our inaugural litigation section dinner. But you'll hear more about those awardees after we eat. In conclusion, I'd like to thank our Beverly Hills Bar Association staff, including our Executive Director, Mark Steinberg, best in the business. This is one of over 150 events, or this year it looks like it may be more like 200 events, that they put on every year. And they do it with style and class. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce our Executive Director, Mr. Mark Steinberg.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Jonathan Stein and the litigation section and dinner committee for this evening's event. I promise I will be short so we can get on with the important business, as you've heard, of dining. But we are delighted that you all are here to help the Beverly Hills Bar Association litigation section launch its first awards dinner. We are honored by all of your presence, as we are honored to be acknowledging retired Chief Justice Ron George and renowned trial attorney Roman Silverfeld. And I want to thank our honorees family, friends, and colleagues for helping to make this evening so special. As you've heard, the Beverly Hills Bar Association will be celebrating its 80th anniversary in December. We are very proud of our long and well-recognized history of activism and accomplishments. And tonight we are thrilled to add to that as we kick off this year, 2011, our 80th anniversary year, with yet another important first, this litigation section awards dinner with our very impressive honorees and presenters. I too want to mention the elegance and importance of the awards that we have this evening and express our gratitude to Tiffany and Company for their specially designed Excellence in Advocacy Award and Award for Judicial Excellence. Thank you to Jonathan Bruckner and Michael Howard who are here with us tonight. And I want to acknowledge the Montage Hotel, a first for many of us as we celebrate this evening's event. Catering manager Sean Brown, executive chef Thomas Morton, who I had the pleasure of meeting and chatting with at this evening's dinner, and the wonderful wait staff that are here tonight for their support and your service. Thank you very much. Finally, as we all know, productions of this type do not happen by themselves. It is my delight to acknowledge and express my personal deep appreciation and all of our gratitude to the amazing and incredible Beverly Hills Bar Association staff. Okay, you've heard that a wonderful program is going to be coming along with the awards, the presentation of the awards. That awaits us. But what awaits us now is a delightful and delicious dinner, so relax and I invite you to enjoy it.
Thank you now for directing your attention to the stage area for a very energetic, very compact awards presentation. We'll be done by 9:30. Our hopes for you this evening is to bring you a night of equipoise, that special sense of motionlessness, where we might take pleasure in reflecting on the past and feel wonderment for what is to come in the future. This is true not just because we honor past accomplishments, but because we bring together a community that will work and support each other in coming days and years. See who's in this room. They are your community. They are your colleagues. You will hear about and from the Chief. Ron George was a popular, respected Chief Justice of California's enormous trial court system, but I believe Ron will also be seen as an historic figure in this 163-year Golden State. The son of two immigrants, he followed a distinctly Federalist philosophy that the California judiciary must be structured, administered, and funded as a third, independent, and co-equal branch of state government. For litigators, he changed everything, from one day, one trial, consolidating superior and municipal courts, to rewriting court rules and the rules of marriage. His prodigious work ethic and his diplomatic approach to fellow justices, 3 governors, and 7 legislatures earned him this award. So we have, in this evening of equipoise, to consider the future as well, to discuss it with this fine community of litigators. What of it? Well, to begin, the future has got to be better than 2010. What a difficult year that was. And we know it will reflect huge changes in the practice of law, a true nationalization of legal practice, for better or worse. National law firms, multi-district litigations, use of the word billion when talking about damages. These are changes begun already with record numbers of law firm mergers, branch office openings, and then a great big shakeout in the legal community. These impacts will be felt more and more here in Los Angeles, no matter how unique our lifestyle. Emblematic of the nationalization of legal practice have been those few that have found a strong position rising atop the waves of change. We honor one of those tonight, Roman Silverfeld. Roman is nationally known as the winner of the $320 million Celador v. Disney IP litigation, as lead counsel for In-Read Chocolate antitrust litigation, the Gamma Guard blood products litigation, and as chair of the California Coordinated Rescue Plan litigation. He is known to friends and colleagues for giving back, as chairman of public counsel and as member of the Board of Overseers of Loyola Law School. We are an equipoise between past and future, to consider them both. Just as California courts were reordered for our times by a very strong hand, so has our legal community been reordered forcefully, as many have seen this reordering occur during the prime of their career and had to adjust to it. We can seek this evening the stillness necessary to reflect, appreciate, and understand better. There has been a paradigm shift. Ron George saw it early and changed the central focus of post-World War II judicial administration from each county to a more modern, more uniform, statewide focus. Roman Silverfeld saw it early, and he changed his own legal practice from a Los Angeles firm to become managing partner of the Los Angeles office of a national firm. In the face of this nationalizing trend has been the renewed strength of local institutions, such as the Beverly Hills Bar, that provide an anchor in the local community and give us a sense that we're partly in control of our own destinies. We at the bar have adjusted to these changing times. We have redefined the role of a local bar, and we ask you to take notice of what we are doing here tonight. This is the first Litigation Section Awards dinner. It sold out during a recession, and it brought together our community of litigators around two of its natural leaders. The leaders we have chosen to recognize are part of this paradigm shift. They have preserved and reinterpreted the value of what it means to be local in the face of the rising, rushing floodwaters of nationalization in our legal practices. One thing will not change from past to future, from local to national, and from this evening of equipoise to the frenetic activities of tomorrow. And that is the impact of a single great man or woman. And I don't mean just great as an historic figure. I don't mean great as a model of successful legal practice. Rather, I mean great in terms of an act of greatness. We as a community are uniquely aware of the impact one person can make. For it is each of you in the audience that has been put on the spot, has been asked to be great for a moment, for a day, for a client, or for the service of justice. Our first presenter is Stuart Simke, one of the legends of our litigation community. Born to Hungarian immigrants, Stuart grew up in a mixed neighborhood, full of rich and poor, Jews and Irish, Italians and Puerto Ricans, and he learned to talk to everyone. He attended City University of New York, then UCLA, then UCLA Law School. I had a chance to talk to Stuart, and he is what I call a pure character. He likes to say that he fell in love with the law and in 50 years has never left it. For those of you in the audience who are younger, this guy was managing partner in 1961. Do the math. For those of you who are a little older, his partners were Bill Rudder and Sid Ernst. Like all great litigators, his vision of how and why to litigate a case springs from a fundamental core of personality. In Stuart's case, it is his love of people, the natural joy in the company, and his personal sense of self-worth from helping them. His are the best instincts for a litigator, a natural sense of justice for all, and respect for his client. Many of you know Stuart for his keen intellect, great wit, and charm. Please welcome Stuart Simke.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Justice Kennedy, Chief Justice George, Justice Cheney, Justice Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and privilege to help present the Beverly Hills Bar Association Excellence in Advocacy Award to someone whom I greatly admire, my great friend, my former law partner, Roman Silverfeld. Before reciting Roman's many accomplishments, I would like to begin with the story of how I met Roman and to pay homage to the person who introduced me to him. I was introduced to Roman by his dad. Our office was near a little market. We'd go in there and buy food for lunch. And his dad worked there. Every time we came in there, his father was this wonderful, wonderful, down-to-earth conversationalist. And no matter how busy he was, he would start a conversation with us and remind us that he had a son in law school. And if we were really smart and we really wanted to do something really, really good for our firm, we'd immediately gobble up his son. He also told us about his background, how he'd been a Holocaust survivor, how his family had been killed in the concentration camps, how he started a new family, brought Roman here when he was 2 years old, started a new life, how much he loved this country, how this country committed someone of humble beginnings to have his son go to law school, and someday, he told us, there's no doubt in his mind, his son was really going to be able to contribute to society, not just for himself, but for his father also. Of course, that turned out to be true. We thought we humored Max, trying just to basically stop him from bothering us. And we set up an interview with Roman. We had no need for a law clerk at the time. But nevertheless, we loved Max, so we set up this interview, brought him in, and found out that, unbelievably so, Max had not oversold. There he was, handsome as hell, as he is today, personable, easy to get along with, on the law review, editor of the law review, associate editor of the law review. We were so impressed we hired him on the spot in 1973. When he graduated from law school, we brought him in as an associate. He became a partner in the firm within 3 years. That had never happened in the history of my firm, but he was that good. He became a senior partner less than 3 years later, and had his name added to the firm name. That's in a firm like ours, that was a rather meteoric rise. We quickly, let me tell you why he was able to accomplish these things. It became apparent rather early on that we had someone who was very, very unusual. He had real class, not easy for a young associate. He had humility, really not easy for a young associate. He had a tremendous desire to excel, not just in the practice of law, but just as a human being. He was liked by everyone in our firm, from the lowest to the highest. Everybody respected him. One of the things I most admired about him, I had some pretty tough partners in those days. Pretty tough partners. It was easy to be intimidated by him. Roman, on the other hand, had this ability, would sit in the room and convince them, whether it was true or not, that he really knew what they were talking about. And notwithstanding, whatever the problem may have been, he never looked like he was being intimidated. It really made people have tremendous confidence in him. He always craved responsibility and always delivered. He's always asked for more and more and more. If he promised you something, he always lived up to his promise. He outperformed his peers, but notwithstanding that, he always reached a hand down below to help someone with a leg up, to give a helping hand. Now, I don't want you to think he was square. He had a wicked sense of humor. I would like to give you one example. Unfortunately, the associate I'm about to speak about is not here. But we had an associate who was a crazed USC fan. But I mean, beyond anything any of you have ever seen. He attended every UCLA-USC football game. But he did it with a bear nailed on a cross. And of course what he did was, he sat in the UCLA section and rooted, of course, for USC. He was so crazy, Time magazine wrote him up. Now, after a while, listening to his stories about USC and football and his stupid bear, someone, guess who, stole the bear out of the trunk of his car. Funny enough, the next day a ransom appeared. Just as you would normally think, somebody had gone to the newspaper, taken the trunk, about words from the newspaper. Daddy, they've kidnapped. Daddy, they threatened to dismember me. I don't remember what the ransom demand was, but this went on day after day. The lunatic who stole the bear bought another bear, and he would carve the ear off the second bear. And put the dismembered ear full of ketchup in the envelope with the ransom note. This nonsense went on for I don't remember how long. Every day a note with another part of the stupid bear. Before the associate's wife called me up in tears. How could you permit this to happen to my family? So I finally sent out a note to the firm saying, I don't know who did it, but whoever did it, please, for my sake, so that Mrs. So-and-so stops calling me on the phone, please stop sending the stupid ransom calls. That's my lover over there, Roman. Roman turned out to be what I call a triple threat. One, he not only was a great litigator, which he was so smart that the judges loved hearing from him, and he was so honest and sincere that juries just loved him. But beyond that, he combined with that this ability to lead. He was a born leader. He didn't lead by edict, he led by example. People wanted to follow him, and people did follow him. We turned over what was one of the largest parts of our law firm to him to manage. He took what was a fledgling part of our law firm in terms of finances, not in terms of that is money earned, and turned it into a big money winner. Because he not only could lead people, he had a great business head. I thought he was better suited than anybody else in all our firm to take over from me as managing partner when I got kind of tired of doing it after many years. And I asked him to become the managing partner of the firm. He took on that responsibility, and he took the firm to far greater heights than I was able to. Roman brought to the firm a new type of litigation that is new to our firm. It was known as the mass torts litigation. He was so good at it that the courts and his fellow attorneys would appoint him, in some cases lead counsel, such as in the LA County asbestos litigation, where I don't know how many thousands of cases he managed to administer. And at the beginning, it seemed like he had two people working in a factory, like a boiler room operation where paper just kept coming out of that room. He was then appointed New York State DES lead counsel in the New York State DES trials. He was appointed chairman of the Claimants Steering Committee, California Coordinated Breast Implant Litigation, and chairman of the DES litigation group. By 1995, Roman had outgrown our firm, in my opinion. And I encouraged him to move on, and met with him and his then now partners, encouraged him to move there. I think it was the best move for him. I love the fact that he was able to basically go on and do a lot bigger and better things than I thought he could do with our firm. They loved him so much. Within a very short period of time, he was the managing partner of the LA office. Not too long a period of time, he got appointed to the executive board, which controls the national law firm of Robbins, Kaplan, Miller, and Cerisi. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's the first non-Minnesotan to sit on the executive board. Now, after he joined Robbins Kaplan, he branched out and started handling even more diverse and complicated litigation. You've heard about some of it. I won't belabor it. He became class counsel in a case against banks and brokerage firms arising out of fraud involving annuities, structured settlements, and long-term payout of settlement proceeds. He's appointed lead counsel in the antitrust case involving the chocolate industry, appointed lead counsel in nationwide gamma card litigation. And as you all know by now, this has been written up every place it really should, he hit Disney for $320 million. Not to mean a feat. But during this entire period of time, and this long and distinguished career that he had, he always found time, as a good man will, for his family and his community. We have here tonight his lovely wife, Kat, his two daughters, Ashley and Ariana. When they were young, along with their brother Tony, and they were going to school, Roman was president of every PTA association. Roman raised money for every charity for the school. He became involved with every bar association imaginable. Ultimately became president because Roman always had this philosophy instilled by his father Max. You owe a lot. You have to give back. He always did. Based on these achievements, both as an outstanding attorney and as a human being, you can see why the Beverly Hills Bar Association is honoring him tonight. There's one other person who I would like to honor tonight, and who I know is looking down and saying, son, great job. I'm terribly proud of you. Roman's dad, Max. Sorry about that. I'm now pleased to introduce a friend of mine, Associate Justice Victoria Cheney of the California Court of Appeals Center. She's known Roman for many years. Her background, I think, is rather unique. She was a registered nurse when I met her. She attended law school, practiced in a law firm, became an LA City attorney, then spent 19 years as an outstanding trial judge before being appointed to the Court of Appeal in 2009. While on the trial bench, she presided over criminal cases and civil docket, and until her elevation, class action and complex litigation in the court's complex litigation division. Over the years, she's been praised by virtually every plaintiff and defense lawyer who's appeared in the courtroom. I'm pleased to welcome and present my friend, Judge Cheney.
Before tonight, Stuart and I talked, and Stuart told me the teddy bear story. And he said, I don't think I can do it. He said, they'll love it, they'll eat it up. And you did. The Excellence in Advocacy Award honors a trial attorney whose outstanding and repeated successes in cases are the result of a combination of expert legal skills, daring trial strategies, and corporate acumen. In addition, the attorney is recognized as an advocate who has made significant long-term efforts to give back to the legal profession in our community. This evening, I am honored to be able to participate in the presentation of the Excellence in Advocacy Award to Roman Stein. I have known Roman for about 30 years. During the last 10 or so years, I had the pleasure of having Roman appear before me as an advocate in various complex civil cases. Roman worked his way through high school and college, running psychedelic light shows and rock concerts. In spite of the late nights required by his rather unusual calling, he graduated with honors from UCLA and then attended Loyola Law School, a great institution, if I do say so myself, where he was an associate editor of the Law Review. Following his graduation from law school in 1974, as we have heard from Stuart Simke, he joined the firm of Ernest Simke, Chodos, Green, Lasher, and Hecht. When Roman became partner, the firm changed its name to Simke, Chodos, and Silverfeld. In 1995, Roman joined the firm of Robbins, Kaplan, Miller, and Cerisi, and was soon named the managing partner of the Los Angeles office based in Century City. As a matter of fact, several members from Roman's firm are here tonight, and one of them is the managing partner for the entire firm, I believe. Is that right? And he's come all the way to recognize Roman's achievements. Roman represents both plaintiffs and defendants in complex civil litigation involving business matters, intellectual property, mass torts, environmental law, healthcare law, entertainment and media issues, with particular emphasis on multi-state, multi-party, and class action litigation. That is quite a mouthful of things that he's done, and really remarkable. Last year, he represented Celador International in Celador International versus the Walt Disney Company, a dispute over profits from the highly successful television show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And as you heard from Stuart, he did very well. Roman has been lead counsel in several cutting-edge cases. The MDL chocolate confectionery antitrust litigation, which involved price fixing. I'm going through some of these to give you an idea of the breadth of the types of cases that Roman handles, and the fact that in many, if not all of these cases, he's been lead counsel in the Massa versus Medtronic, which involves trade secrets regarding the bone and stent. He represents Best Buy in quite a few cases, in particular in Roberts versus Best Buy, a California class action involving overtime pay for managers, and Holloway versus Best Buy, a national class action alleging gender and race discrimination in hiring, pay, and promotion. Ride and Show versus MTS is a patent infringement case involving the controls for the seat movements in amusement park rides. I think those are the ones that really make me sick whenever I get on them. Anyway, somebody out there has the same problem, I can tell. Okay, Roman served as class counsel in Ray's structured settlement litigation, which involved tort and contract claims brought against financial institutions. Roman was also lead counsel in the nationwide Gamma Guard blood product litigation, which involved claims against a healthcare company for contaminated blood products resulting in the contraction of hepatitis C. The California Coordinated Breast Implant litigation, the DHS, or diethylstilbestrol, or DHS litigation, and New York, and also here in LA County, as Stuart told you about the asbestos litigation. Roman is a proud member of several professional associations and on many professional organizations, including the Judicial Council Advisory Committee on Civil Jury Instructions, the Commission for Impartial Courts, the Task Force on Judicial Selection and Retention, the American Association for Justice, formerly known as the Association of Trial Lawyers of America, the International Academy of Trial Lawyers, where he is both a fellow and a member of the Board of Directors, the Consumer Attorneys of California, and the Consumer Attorneys Association of Los Angeles. Roman has been a sought-after public speaker and lecturers to bar and professional groups, and is the author of numerous articles, including several on the admissibility of scientific testimony in complex trials. He has received considerable recognition as an attorney, including being named as one of the top 100 lawyers in California in 2010, most recently, by the Los Angeles Daily Journal, and listed as one of the 500 leading lawyers in America, also in 2010 by Law Dragon. Roman is perhaps best known, however, in spite of all this, for his civic activities. He has served as an officer and chairman of public counsel on the board of overseers for his alma mater and my alma mater, Loyola Law School, and is a member of several civic groups supporting environmental causes. In preparing for this evening, I spoke with many of Roman's friends, Roman's co-workers and attorneys, and Robert's Kaplan, and opposing counsel. Everyone uniformly had high praise for his skills as an attorney, his pro bono work, and his humanity especially. He is known to be extremely hardworking, but with a balanced family life. Although I have to tell you that his partners and the other attorneys say that calling them from a hospital 35 minutes before hip replacement surgery to discuss settlement strategy in a case for public counsel could be considered to be a little over the top, just a tad. His excellence as a trial attorney is juxtaposed with outstanding problem-solving skills, valuable to both his clients and his co-workers. I was told he is, quote, a complete human being, and someone who you would want with you in a foxhole, which I think is quite a compliment. Robin has a strong commitment to pro bono service, a commitment which has, under his influence, become part of the Robin Kaplan's firm culture. I was told that he is a good friend and, quote, one of the most trustworthy humans I have ever known, thoughtful, kind, and generous, and deeply caring about people and devoted to helping humankind. His partners describe him as a take-charge kind of guy, known affectionately as Captain Ahab, because at law firm retreats at a lodge in northern Minnesota, he insists on captaining the pontoon boat that takes them to the lodge. He also personally hangs each and every picture on the law firm's walls in their offices in Century City. I have been reliably informed of that by one of his partners. Roman is able to laugh at himself and enjoys having others laugh with him. I know Roman, in my role as a judge, as a contemplative, commonsensical man. During oral argument, he pauses before he speaks, taking a moment to think about opposing arguments before giving incisive responses. His is a voice of uncommon clarity in the courtroom. He is more than an advocate for a client. He is an advisor to us all. To paraphrase Samuel Johnson, the law is the last result of human logic, acting upon human values for the benefit of the public. Roman has mastered the logic. He possesses the values. He is a perfect match for an award that recognizes both. Roman, would you please come forward? Are the result of a combination of expert legal skills, daring trial strategies, and courtroom acumen. In addition, the attorney is recognized as an advocate who has made significant long-term efforts to give back to the legal profession and our community. I'm honored to be able to present this to you.
Taught how to do that earlier tonight. Well, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Let me first thank the Beverly Hills Bar Association for this great honor, my friend Mike Steinberg, Stephen Rapture, and everyone else involved with this wonderful event. Let me thank Stuart, my dear, dear friend, and Victoria for your kind remarks. I was a little afraid of what Stuart would say because I've known him the longest and virtually everybody in the room. I think everybody. I know less than Stuart. And Victoria, you know, people did come to me and say that you were nosing around for information. So if the whole Court of Appeal thing doesn't work out, TMZ is looking for people that are probably hiring Harvey Levin to get them. Before going any further, though, I want to congratulate Chief Justice George on this fine award tonight. It is an honor for me to be in the same room with you, sir. You know, last week Charlie Callis died. Anybody remember Charlie Callis? He was a lounge comic in Vegas, and he always opened for Frank Sinatra. I feel like Charlie Callis somewhat tonight. But Chief, your leadership and your scholarship have been such a tremendous gift to our state and to our profession. I'm reminded when I think of you of what another great Californian, Earl Warren, said, something that applies so aptly, I think, to you and your judicial career, and that is, it is the spirit of the law, not the form of the law, that keeps justice alive. And I think that exemplifies what you have meant to this state. And congratulations to you on your honor. This honor is given to me for a career, and I think for a body of work devoted to doing the best that I can in service of the people that I represent. And having just said that, that's the last time you're going to hear me talk in the singular tonight, because in truth, nothing worth doing ever is done by an individual alone. And I want to tell you that is absolutely true of me. And I want to tell you about some of the people in my life who have made whatever I've accomplished absolutely possible. Without them, none of it would have been possible. I am so very fortunate to have a loving and supportive family. Everything begins with Pat. Pat is not only the love of my life, but she is my best friend. She is my most honest critic, and she is the best barometer I've ever met of what is right, what is just, what is fair, and what is ethical. And Pat, without your devotion to me and to our family, nothing I've ever done would have been possible. I am so very proud of my children, because these children didn't take a lot of raising. They were, at all times, incredibly exceptional as children, and they are exceptional human beings as adults. My daughter Ashley was here, my daughter Ariana was here, my son Tony, who couldn't be here tonight, and my son David, who also could not be here. They are incredible people, and I'm so proud of them. They know how much I love them, and I won't go into that too much more. They know who they are, and they know how I feel about them. They're a source of incredible joy and pride. And having 4 grandchildren as well is a special gift on its own. And then there's my professional family. You heard from Stuart. I am, if anything, I am the product of wonderful lawyers and even better teachers. Stuart and I have known each other for almost 40 years. He was old when I was young. And now I seem to have caught up with him. I don't really know how that happened. But Stuart has taught me everything I know about the practice of law. And I mean everything. For 21 years, our small firm was a wonderfully nurturing place. It was a genuine partnership, and it was a place where the best of friendships were made. So much so that I thought I could never find a like environment again. But luckily, I did. I found it in Robbins, Kaplan, Miller, and Cerisi, and I'm honored that my friend and our firm-wide managing partner, Steve Schumeister, is here tonight from Minneapolis. Steve, thank you for coming. I'm deeply touched as well by the number of tables that are filled by a great number of our partners and associates from the firm who are here tonight. We have that same culture as we had in Stuart's firm. We have a culture of friendship and togetherness, of caring for one another, and here again, any success attributed to me is largely due to the contributions of many people who are here and many who are not, and I'm so grateful for their support and their devotion to our clients, to our cases, and to the causes we believe in. And then there are my friends, many of whom, again, are here tonight, and many are not. My friends in the legal community and outside the legal community are like my rabbis. They dispense advice and wisdom. They're a source of laughter and joy, of comfort in hard times, and of celebration in good times. So having engaged in this team sport of ours for the last 36 years, I've learned a few things that I want to share. I learned these things from my parents, from my family, from my partners, and from my friends. Some lessons were learned the hard way, and some came easily. But here's how I've tried to live my life. First, I tried to do what's right. And in doing so, I found that there is a tremendous power and strength in the conviction that you are acting honorably and that you are on the right side of an issue, of a position, or of a case. This isn't arrogance talking. This is quiet confidence that you're right. And doing the right thing is very, very important to me, or at least trying to do it. Working hard. What we do as lawyers is very, very difficult, and it's complicated. And it requires enthusiasm, and it requires energy. Great things are achievable if we put in the effort. And I've seen a direct relationship between effort and outcome. And so working hard is a matter of some importance to me as well. I try to make friends, not enemies. Many of my friends have started out as opposing counsel in cases. And although we disagreed, as the old saying goes, we were never disagreeable with one another. And clients, courts, and the system as a whole are served, I think, by acting reasonably and cooperatively whenever possible. One of the lessons is to stay curious. The wonderful thing about practicing law is that so long as we have an active and an engaged mind, we can work and accomplish anything we set our minds to. The great UCLA coach Johnny Wooden put it best when he said, "It's what you learn after you know it all that really counts." And so it is with us. We can always learn something new every day and put it to good use in service of our clients, our firms, or the professionals. Another lesson is giving back to the profession and to the community. My father taught me that. My mother taught me that. We've been given so much. And in turn, I believe we have a great responsibility to those less fortunate. And in giving back, as you all know, because I know you all participate in this greatly, I've always found that I receive so much more than I give. And lastly, the idea that we're all connected and we should care for each other. Now, while we serve clients and therefore have important obligations and responsibilities to see to their rights, their duties and their obligations, our responsibility as lawyers, to me, does not end there. We always need to keep a close eye on the profession and nurture it when it's necessary. We need to be a voice for the judiciary. Because when it is under siege, so often judges can't or won't speak in their own defense publicly. And we should set our personal collective goal of protecting justice by keeping in Chief Justice Warren's words, that spirit of the law alive always. I hope to do my part in the coming years to deserve the honor you bestowed on me tonight. Thank you so very much.
again, Roman. I should add that the Dean of Loyola Law School is here tonight as well, Victor Gold, and I want to thank him for coming. I now have the distinct privilege of starting the presentations that will lead to the award for judicial excellence. In some ways, for this award, we had it too easy. When the Chief Justice unexpectedly announced his retirement last year, it was immediately apparent who the first recipient of this award should be. There was not a lot of deep thought that was required in light of his distinguished record as a jurist and as a judicial administrator, as well as the fact that he's a longtime constituent. In fact, I checked on Wikipedia, and if it's accurate, it says that you graduated from Beverly Hills High School in 1957. But all that should not disguise the qualities which this award is meant to recognize, all of which Ron George has demonstrated in abundance. Those qualities include open-mindedness, even-handedness, and intellectual honesty. During his time on the bench, the Chief Justice demonstrated again and again his willingness to consider different points of view, not necessarily to do what was expected or easy, but rather to do what he thought was right and what he thought was required by the law. The most dramatic example of that was probably the Chief Justice's landmark opinion in the marriage cases, but it's by no means the only example. The Chief Justice was also a steadfast champion of the rule of law and judicial independence, two qualities which this Bar Association esteems above almost all others. Aside from the lasting significance of his opinions, any discussion of Ron George must acknowledge the incredible legacy he's left on the California court system. One day, one trial, unification of the superior and municipal courts, new courthouse construction, and over the past 2 years, navigation of the judicial branch through some of the most troubled financial waters ever encountered. But beyond all of that, there'll be forever a special place for Ron George in the hearts of the Beverly Hills Bar Association. That's because in our greatest hour of need, he stood with us. As most of you probably know, at the end of 2003, our Bar Association was stunned to learn that a trusted employee had embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars, and our very continued existence was in doubt. It wasn't long after that, at our annual Supreme Court luncheon, that the Chief Justice did more than just give his annual State of the Judiciary remarks. He handed the president of the Beverly Hills Bar Association a personal check to help us through our difficult times. The financial contribution was, of course, appreciated, but the public vote of confidence was invaluable. Now, 7 years later, I'm pleased to report that we are better than ever. But that act of generosity will never be forgotten, and we will forever be in the debt of Chief Justice Ron George. I now have the privilege of introducing the Chief Justice's sons, one of his sons, Eric George. Eric received his bachelor's degree in 1990 from Georgetown University and a JD from Georgetown University School of Law with honors in 1993. He's a partner in the Los Angeles office of Brown Woods George, LLP, who represents plaintiffs and defendants in complex, frequently high-profile disputes. Prior to joining the firm, Eric served as counsel to the United States Senate Judiciary Committee and as Deputy Legal Affairs Secretary to Governor Pete Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Eric George to the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you a dilemma. I was asked to introduce Justice Kennedy, but not my father. How could a good son possibly ignore his very own father sitting just a few feet away from him? So here's my imperfect solution. I'll deliver up an introduction, and you, part of this incredibly erudite crowd, can decide the man for whom it's intended. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce a man who is a jurist built from exceptional integrity, talent, and courage. He was born in California. He attended Stanford Law School. While in his 30s, he became a judge. One of his judicial appointments was from none other than Ronald Reagan. He has 3 children. I understand that the eldest is a son of exceptional brilliance and remarkable good looks. The man I'm introducing has served in the highest court in the judicial system in which he has served. And in so doing, he has been the rare jurist able, more than any other on his court, to forge majorities with his judicial colleagues. Indeed, in some court terms, he's been in the majority more than 90% of the time, developing a reputation for being the court's deciding vote. The hallmark of the man I'm introducing is courage. He never shies away from, but frequently invites, authorship of those decisions known to invite controversy and the inevitable harping of critics. And as a consequence, to the right, he was the source of consternation concerning a seminal abortion rights decision, and later, concerning a decision that invalidated a state law denying homosexuals certain rights. To the left, too, he's been criticized for his jurisprudence on the death penalty. But to both the left and to the right, and all in between, the man I introduce to you tonight is a great, unapologetic protector of civil liberties, a man of great virtue in his personal life, and a man for whom, when court has been out of session, his spare time is dominated by travel and by literature, and always by a great and active mind. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, each of course true both of Justice Kennedy and of my father, Chief Justice George, I invite your applause for both men and your welcome of Justice Kennedy to speak to us now.
Fellow citizens devoted to the idea and the reality of the rule of law. Barbara thought he was talking about rum. Mary thought he was talking about me. It's a thrill for me to be in a room with eminent California judges and lawyers. We love this stuff. Thank you for your work. If you had wanted to make a bet in as late as the 15th century on whether the common law or the civil law would prevail in England, the smart money might have been in the civil law. Because the law of admiralty, the law of merchant, the law of equity, and London mirrored the civil law. But the common law prevailed. And it was because the common law came from the people to the state, not the other way around. And it was because the common law allowed the judges and the attorneys to find a self-definition in moral principles and in ideas of justice. And in England, that produced great legal writers like Bracton and Blackstone, but also great judges, Coke and Mansfield and Elton. And then in our history, Marshall, Brandeis, Cardozo, Holmes, Harlan, Traynor, and George. One of the things that this human side of the Anglo-American legal tradition, which began in the common law and is still reflected in the case method, one of these things produced is a special language of the law. There's a language of the law that's different than the language of civil discourse generally, than the language of political branches. It's not better, not worse, different. The law has a language with an elegance, a grammar, a boundary, a tradition, a history, a clarity, a restraint, a morality, a decency. It's all of his own. And it makes for a bond and a kinship among all attorneys and all justices and all judges. And it's that bond that's so evident here tonight. It's that bond that brings you together, members of the Beverly Hills Bar Association, to honor Ron George, a great jurist. This language of the law enables us to know each other. We can pick up a telephone and talk to an attorney a continent away, at least a generation removed, whom we've never met. But you know him or you know her because we speak this beautiful common language of the law. And Ron George has exemplified this. He argued in the Supreme Court of the United States just in his early 30s. He then came to the bench, to the municipal court. He was a great attorney who had a most successful, brilliant, enviable career in the bar, and he chose to come to the bench, and our bench depends on attracting the most eminent members of the bar, and you must insist that this continues to happen. And his service, and his record, and his contribution have made him important for the whole history of California. One of its greatest judges, one of its greatest citizens. Unlike law, which has 4 parts to legal profession, has 3. Academy, bench, bar. And he's contributed to the strength and the progress and the integrity of each. Mary and I have had the great pleasure of being with Ron and Barbara on the Anglo-American Judicial Exchange and at other events. And when Ron speaks, there's a decency, an integrity, and an intellect, and an absolute probity that is evident in every word he speaks and in every judgment he makes. Ron, thank you for contributing to the history of this state, of my state, of our state. This award that is being called the Ronald M. George Award for Judicial Excellence doesn't define you. You define this award. And if you would please come forward, it would be my privilege to present it to you.
Needless to say, I'm honored, I'm humbled by recognition conferred upon me this evening by the Beverly Hills Bar Association, its litigation section, by the presenters, Justice Kennedy and Eric George, one of our sons, whom Barbara and I, all 3, we're so proud of, and our other family members who are here. I cannot thank you enough for this great honor and for your overly generous introduction, Justice Kennedy, and for the friendship that we've enjoyed over the years. And I must say, with all due deference to Justice Kennedy and our son Eric, that actually the most accurate of all introductions that I have incurred over the years was conferred by the former Speaker of the Assembly and then Mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown, who on one occasion noted, this is the Chief Justice of California, Ron George, who really doesn't need any introduction. And here is his wonderful wife, Barbara George, the chair of the California Arts Council, and without her, he would still be handling traffic tickets. And Barbara, please stand. It's been a great pleasure here tonight to be among so many friends, lawyers and judges, and many of us go back a long way. I saw Justice Cheney come up here. I thought, my gosh, I remember that trial that she had before me when she was representing the city of Los Angeles many, many years ago, decades ago, I will say. And so many others of you who I've known over the years, personal or professional or mutual level. And it's wonderful being here tonight. I've been asked, first of all, to reflect a little bit. I was just going to get up here and express my very deep felt appreciation, but I was asked to reflect a little bit upon the judicial service that I have incurred. But before I do that, I just want to add to the accolades of Roman Silverfeld, who you have heard so many wonderful things about, mainly about his legal practice, but I want to indicate how he exemplifies the best among lawyers in terms, this doesn't sound too parochial, in terms of their support for our judicial system and judicial independence. And Roman has not just voiced those views, but he has put it to action. He has worked on committees and commissions, has even engaged in a long-term and not yet fully activated effort to make some changes to California's Constitution to enhance and preserve judicial independence. So it's a great pleasure and a great honor for me to share in this night's honors with you, Roman. Thank you so much. Well, it is difficult to reflect upon 45 years of public service, 38 years as a judge, at each of the 4 levels of the court system that then existed, and to look a little bit ahead, and I was asked to do that. But I will say that I have enormous gratitude to the 4 governors of both political parties who gave me the opportunity to serve the people of the state of California at each of those different levels. And that culminated, of course, in being a Chief Justice, which is a position which some but not all recognize involves not only writing one's 1/7 share of the opinions of the court, but presiding with all due deference to Justice Kennedy's federal system over the largest law-trained judicial system probably anywhere in the world. We have 1,750 judges and a few hundred court commissioners, 21,000 court employees, a budget of $4 billion. And that is a 24/7 job. And very frankly, after this total of 45 years of public service, 38 as a judge, 14 as Chief Justice, I thought that while I still had the energy and enthusiasm to enjoy the many other offerings of life, although not being too old to continue in the job, this was a time at a propitious moment when we had turned things around, at least for the year 2010, for the judiciary to take leave and let somebody else take over. And while I still had the energy and enthusiasm to pursue interests outside the law, those involve pleasure boating in all sorts of different areas, travel without a suitcase full of briefs, and after, with Barbara raising 3 wonderful sons, help raising 2 wonderful little girls that are granddaughters. So these are my only commitments that I have made. It started off my term as Chief Justice with a commitment that I made in a State of the Judiciary address that became an annual event before a joint session of the California Legislature. A commitment that some thought I should have been committed for making, and that was to visit the courts in each of California's 58 counties. And for those of you who don't know, they range from not only the county in which we are gathered here tonight of over 8 million people, but counties as small as Alpine with 1,500 men, women, and children. And it was an eye-opening venture. It was not just an idle exercise. It was an effort to learn more, given the responsibilities placed on me as Chief Justice of California, not merely of the High Court, the responsibilities to govern this large system and to realize what the problems were, what the solutions might be, and to try to really work cohesively toward creating a judicial branch that was not just a judicial branch in name or theory, but truly in reality, in function. And those were eye-opening visits, and they did result in some structural reforms of the system, the switch from county-based funding for courts in various counties to a state system of funding. Why? Because the system of justice, the quality of justice, which in my view is one of the most important services provided by government, that varied drastically from county to county, depending upon the financial resources, the ability and willingness of particular counties to adequately fund their courts in the face of competing demands for all sorts of other services, whether it was health services, social services, libraries, parks, public safety, etc. And it also depended upon whether each particular court, through its presiding judge, had a good or a poor relationship with whoever was on the county board of supervisors that year. And to me, it seemed obvious that the quality of justice should not depend upon such vagaries, but should be consistent around the state. So we switched to a system, and we achieved that the first year that I was Chief Justice, a system of the state taking over the responsibility for funding our courts. During these visits, it also appeared that there was an enormous amount of duplication in services among the 220 courts that we had, municipal and superior. You had, at one end of the courthouse, municipal filing window services, the other end, superior court, for civil, for criminal, separate jury pools, separate interpreter services, duplicative purchasing of supplies, municipal court judges who went home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and completed their full load of preliminary hearings. They had no more work to do. And superior court judges up to their eyeballs in last day cases, civil and criminal, facing dismissal. So it made sense to merge those, and it required a constitutional amendment, which the legislature agreed with us should be placed on the ballot, and the voters, by a 2/3 vote, approved that. So we went from 220 courts, municipal and superior, which I think I can fairly characterize as basically fiefdoms, to a statewide branch of one court in each of our 58 counties with responsibility through the funding for the operations in that court. And then the third of the 3 fundamental structural reforms was the change in ownership from the 530 court facilities in the state from county ownership and using the term somewhat loosely, county maintenance of those facilities, as many of you know, to statewide ownership, and significantly not under a dreaded Department of General Services. And I'm sure that Justice Kennedy on the federal level has some things to say about that, but under judicial branch management. And we did achieve that, and then a couple of years ago, with an approval, despite the already then bad economic situation of the state of California, approval of $6.5 billion worth of funding for new courthouse construction, not to build marble palaces, but to take care of facilities that were basically unsafe due to earthquake, mold, fire and safety issues and so forth, and design issues in terms of security. And this was passed, and how could that happen at a bad time? Well, because these were revenue bonds. They did not impact the beleaguered state fund of the California Treasury. So this is passed. It also, incidentally, happened to come at a great time, and that was part of my selling point, as an economic stimulus, creating more than 100,000 jobs in California. So these were things we did. Now, was this an end in its own right? No, not at all, because our basic mission, the judiciaries, as a member of the Judicial Council, as head of it, I can say, is to increase access to justice. And all of these structural reforms were meant to provide an opportunity for expanded services. You heard some of them in the earlier remarks. Jury reform, interpreter services. Imagine, and I'm startled every time I repeat the statistic, we translate more than 100 languages in California's courts in any given year. Specialized courts, whether it's drug courts, domestic violence courts, complex litigation courts, I could go on and on. All of these things are made possible, including expanded legal services for persons, especially in the civil area, where it is not a constitutional right to have counsel. Expanded legal services. All of this designed to increase access to justice and independence of the judiciary. And there are two sides to that concept, really. We talk about, and we usually think about, decisional independence, the ability of a court or an individual judge to decide a case free from partisan or political pressures, or social or economic personalized views. But there is also the other side of that, institutional independence. If courts are not adequately protected through adequate funding and so forth, they cannot exist and perform their role as an independent branch of government. So let me conclude by saying, what is it that lies ahead? Well, Barbara and I decided, instead of just watching the minute hand go off on a 38-year judicial career, we'd go off and take a vacation the last 2 weeks of my term. So we took off for Antarctica and had a wonderful, adventurous time down there. We went on to Patagonia and hiked around the Andes, Chile, and Argentina. And when I came back, I found out that my successor was faced in her first week of office with 3 great challenges. First of all, an unexpected vacancy on the California Supreme Court. Secondly, the governor's proposal that $200 million be cut from the judicial branch budget, which involved reversing some reversals that I had achieved the year before of restoring funding, going back $200 million. And then the Ninth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals having punted an aspect of the Proposition 8 marriage rights decision to the California Supreme Court for its consideration to resolve an issue that was important to the Ninth Circuit. So I I did sit back with Barbara and I said, you know, it is wonderful to have this as a spectator sport. I think I left at the right time. And after 45 years of public service, maybe it is time for a little bit of self-service. So that's where we are right now. But I do want to leave with the reassuring words that I have an enormous amount of faith in the abilities and the dedication of my successor, Justice Tani Kantil-Sakauwe. She is a person with excellent credentials as a jurist. She is a person with a unique blend of experience in all three branches of government, which will really serve her in this role as Chief Justice. She served as a Deputy Legal Affairs Secretary to the Governor. She served as Deputy Legislative Secretary, and she has 20 years experience on the bench, Municipal Superior Court of Appeal. And she has a total commitment that she shares with me to the statewide administration of justice, a commitment that some people still, even those wearing black robes, will challenge because they long for what they may view as the good old days. But she is firmly committed to it. She is totally committed to expanding legal services, to protecting the judicial independence that we enjoy. And I think you will find her a great, great leader for the judicial and legal professions. And she is only 51 years of age. She has a lot of charm, and she has a backbone of steel, and she shares so many of the qualities that all of you have. I say in conclusion that I'm particularly proud of this award because over the years, being with you in your June luncheon that honors the California Supreme Court, I've had occasion to mention, and I mention again today, that there is no bar association that has shown a greater commitment to supporting the judiciary, whether it's on our areas of policy issues, whether it's on our needs to have a budget, and whether it's judicial independence. And we have challenges because the work is not done with the recitation I gave you. We need to continue with our infrastructure efforts. I have launched an effort to have a case management system that will take us from 70 different systems that are virtually an electronic Tower of Babel to a statewide system that will provide communication among courts and with the bar, and will serve lawyers in tracking their cases. We have to proceed with that and not just take the shorthand view, well, we're in trouble, let's ditch that and put it into day-to-day operations. And we don't want to bring to a halt the courthouse construction program, which is replacing buildings that provide a real hazard to those who work in them, who are here there with their clients. We've got to continue on that and keep the long-term view. And she is dedicated to that. She is dedicated to increasing services, legal services, to pro bono work, all these things that the Beverly Hills Bar has a demonstrated commitment to. And I mentioned as the last of those commitments, you have always been in the forefront when there have been attacks on judicial independence. And those attacks have not been that severe in California recently, but we cannot sit back complacently. I think we all know what happened in Iowa, where 3 of the 7 justices of the Iowa Supreme Court, all 3 who were on the ballot last November, were removed from office because of their vote on a single case involving single-sex marriage. There was no other issue raised, and it was not a state, unlike some where people run against incumbents with the support of either the Chamber of Commerce or the labor unions on one side, you have all these competitive, typical political campaigns. No, this is a state, Iowa, that has a retention election system, a yes or no vote only, for its justices of the Supreme Court. And these 3 justices, who have no other issue raised against them, and who, from everything I have heard, were exemplary jurists, were removed from office. So I want to indicate to you that this may have emboldened others to bring such things to California. You're probably familiar with the effort that failed in South Dakota a few years ago that was headed by Californians. So we must remain on guard. And I so much appreciate your dedication over the years to judicial independence. And I ask you to remain vigilant. And I thank you again for this enormous honor that you've conferred upon a hometown Beverly Hills boy who started here in 1st grade and finished up at 12th. It's such a great joy to be with you. Thank you.
Last item of business, I'd like to present to the Chief a resolution of the Beverly Hills Bar Association naming the Award for Judicial Excellence, the Ronald M. George Award for Judicial Excellence hereafter. And present this to you.
This is truly wonderful and not the type of thing that one expects to see in one's lifetime. So this is like a